Hello, and welcome back to the She Is Me special event, a gathering of healers. Today it's 2 p.m. Pacific time, and we are joined by Kay Hamilton of Activate Your Courage. Kay is joining us from Tasmania on the other side of the world, the other hemisphere, and it's always such a pleasure to be with you, Kay. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. And it's always a pleasure to be with you. It's always a pleasure to be with somebody who's so uplifting and you're on your purpose. It's
Yes,
fantastic.
it took a while, but I'm here.
That's all right. Doesn't matter how long it takes.
Right? Okay, I'm going to duck out and I'm gonna let you tell your story. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll just realign this now that when there's two people, it always looks a little bit different. So, welcome to the She Is Me conference with Lisa and all the other guests who are speaking, sharing their passion and their wisdom. My name is Kay Hamilton, and as Lisa explained, I come from Tasmania, which is way down south of Australia on a small island. And well, it's not tiny small, but it's fairly small. So I'm coming to the sort of later years of my life now, and it gives you time to look back and reflect. And a little bit like Lisa said, she's on her purpose now. Well, it took me many long years to kind of wake up to, really what was happening and what I'd kind of put or what I'd done with myself, what a situation I'd put myself in. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history of where I've come from. I don't want to do a deep dive because that kind of takes you back to the trauma. So I think all of us have different levels of trauma that we experience, and I guess my first turning point was when I was 33 and my ex-husband decided he no longer wanted to be part of the family and he left the marriage. And that left me with three young children. I was still breastfeeding my youngest. It was such a really challenging time. And I was kind of going, oh my gosh, well, how am I going to support myself? Because I also discovered that my husband, well, I kind of knew parts of it, but he was actually in quite a terrible state himself. And I remember at one point saying to him, "Look, don't worry about me. I'll be okay." And why I could even say that to him was quite interesting because I knew that I was a total mess and I didn't know how I was going to cope. So he actually said to me, "Well, don't. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about me." And that kind of woke me up to realize that he was in I didn't really know what state he was in, but he wasn't really all together. So that was quite a shock. And for me, it was quite terrible because he was a hands on person and he was very capable around the house at building and making and doing things. We had never had a lot of arguments and all those kind of things that I knew there were problems, but really, in hindsight, I hadn't addressed them properly. I tried and I did what I could, but what was happening was nothing was happening to resolve what was happening between us. So and so he decided that he was going to leave. Obviously, that was his out. So when you're on your own and you've got three young children and I was the youngest was so young that I didn't go back to work. I actually wanted to be a stay-at-home mum. I didn't really want to have children and go to work. That was not the lifestyle I wanted. However, I then had to, wonder how I was going to get on with things. And I've since discovered that I was not in a really good place myself, obviously. But within 3 months, I'd met somebody else who latched on to me, which I realise now that was the pattern that I'd been having in my life. That feeling that you couldn't be on your own, and you wanted, this so-called partner, and to live happily ever after. My whole state of being with the idea that marriage was something that was for a sacred sanctity of marriage and family. I mean, that was everything. So then I had to start to navigate. Well, meeting somebody else, because I'll tell you, this is what happened. I worked out what I was saying to myself was, no one will ever want to, be with me. I've got 3 children. Who would want to walk into a situation like that? So I actually had low self-esteem, and my thoughts really directed the idea that I was not worthy, no one would want me. And when this person came into my life and gave me a big cuddle, and I just melted and went, oh, that's so nice, because I hadn't been experiencing much of that, physical touch, warmth and reassurance from my ex-husband. I was needy. I was desperate. So that then meant that I was calling in somebody into my life who was from a state of need and from a state of desperation. So that was, well, would you say it was a bad move? Yes, it was a bad move, but it was the move. So it is what it is. So I think what we need to do is kind of go, look, we make these decisions, or we get put in these situations, and we go through circumstances that we may not be pleased about, but really it's no good for us to give ourselves a really hard time about that, because I was going through a hard enough time anyway. So it wasn't very long before I was pregnant, and I didn't take me long after that to realize that I'd really made quite a bad decision, and even circumstances around the pregnancy were, very traumatic. And I actually tried to get this person out of my house, and I couldn't. And I had 3 children, pregnancy on the way. I went through quite a disastrous time. And in the end, I just gave up in the name of, having a harmonious delivery, and thought, right, we'll get the delivery out of the way, and, I'll deal with the rest later, which in the long term took 8 years to get him out of my life. And in that time, as it turned out, I realized that I had to make some hard decisions. I didn't realize at the time that my children, throughout those 8 years, 3 of my children were being abused, and I myself was under the umbrella of abuse as well, which was really, really awkward, with 3 children and a young baby, and we had a lot of really disastrous times. And when it came to light that my children were being abused, that really gave me a huge wake-up call, because I had no idea. And that kind of prompted me into action, because Child Protection were threatening to take my children away, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is, and when I discovered what was happening, it was quite horrific. So then I had to learn how to put myself back together again, and I had to take the tough stance of bringing police in to get him out of the home, so that my children weren't taken from me. So once that happened, then I was on this path of putting myself back together after that, but supporting my children as well. So we went through 8 years of lots and lots of trauma. I'm not one to sit down and in the cup of misery. I'm more the person who wants to have a bucket full of hope and restoration and potential. So I had to do the inner work. Now, my first spiritual, well, not my first, I suppose, but my spiritual wake-up call was when my husband left me. That kind of made me stop and look and go, wow, life isn't really what I thought it was going to be or supposed to be. So that gave me the impetus to start looking spiritually, doing a deep dive to what was going on within me. So during that earlier time, that time when I kind of woke up to the fact that you can't rely on another human being, that opened me up to explore the depths of myself and my connection to God, source, creator, whatever name you want to put, the supreme being that is around us and I believe very much within us. So I had to learn to rely on that and learn about that and what that is for me. I became a Reiki master. I worked with Aurosoma healing, which taught me color healing. And I used to do readings for people. I did a lot of self-development courses. I did Touch for Health. What else did I do? Massage, lots of different things that became my kit of tools to support me through my journey. Then so fast track. So I did my best to support my children and myself and went through the court process, all of those kinds of things, which was very traumatic, extremely traumatic, because the court process does not support the victims. The court process, in fact, I was originally told, sorry, we don't have enough evidence to take it to court. Somebody else said, a sexual assault counsellor said to me, look, going to court is the second rape for the children. So initially I didn't actually want to go to court, but after a while I realised that we really needed to do that. And it was very, very empowering for me and the children, because it confirmed in their mind that what had happened to them was wrong, and it gave them some empowerment to realise that there was some support for them. So if ever you're wondering about the court process, from my experience, I think it's a very important part of the process. My children said to me early in the process, they said, Mum, we've talked to lots of our friends and every one of them have had some encounter. That set alarm bells for me. And they also said to me, Mum, most of their parents haven't done anything about it. So they were truly grateful to have a mother that stood by them and supported them. So that, in the long term, has supported my relationship with them. And as they've got older, they've gone through different phases. As a mother, I really never knew how to handle things. I didn't know, because each child has a different point in their life, whether, in fact, whether they want to talk about it, that, and for me, what do I say? How do I say it? How do I go about it? Because, they all had different responses, and I was still going through quite a time where I was putting myself back together again. But the journey of love, or the connection of love, is so strong. So if any of you are thinking, that you're in this situation and, your family might fall apart, just remember that love is what binds that connection between you. And if you have children who are going through the same process, just make sure that you are there for them and you let them know you're there for them. Each of my children has handled their situation in a very different way. So in 2010, what happened for me was I came across beautiful essential oils. Now, I've always used essential oils, just, to dab a bit of lavender on, or just to do sort of basic things. And when I discovered Young Living essential oils, that was a real turning point for me, because there was a lot of what was happening in my life and in my emotions and in my a lack of self-esteem, that once I started using these oils, it's like it just opened this pathway for me, and I didn't get so caught up in things. So, for example, before I hopped on, I put this oil on called Valor, and this one is one that just helps you to be calm and strong and stay composed and in your space for dealing with things. So these are what has become my best friend. So I'm all about raising our vibration. And what does that mean? That means being able to stay ahead of the game, or stay above stay above the depths of despair, or when you're in the depths of despair, because it doesn't mean because I know how to raise my vibration that I'm always up here. That's unrealistic to think we're all up, operating at 150% all the time. But what it does mean is that when you know what things you can do to support yourself, well, then you've got something to go to that's going to bring you out of that deep despair. So I discovered this oil called Valor, which was very empowering. It helped me to release myself from the triggers that might have set me off to doom and gloom on some level in some way. So since then, I'm actually, my past is I'm a primary school teacher, and I really didn't like being locked in. I still don't like being locked, and I'm not locked into 5 days a week being dictated to us from a system that doesn't necessarily support me. So, or doesn't necessarily work in the way I think we should be working. And that's a whole other topic. But what I discovered when I discovered Young Living, it opened me up to the ability to help transmute emotions so that we could become more empowered. So my journey with Young Living was for me, it was the icing on the cake. I had the candle, I'd lit the candle, but I needed the cake, and I needed the dressing, I needed the decoration, and I needed the flavor. I needed the full embodiment of my self empowerment. So that has helped to transport my ability to create my own business. So when I started using oils, I started sharing them with friends and family, and friends started loving them and enjoying them, and people started ringing me and saying, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe this. It's like a miracle. This has happened or that's happened." And it was truly amazing, and also very empowering, because it was encouraging of me to realize that from where I've come from, I can make a difference in the lives of others. And I really think that is what this is all about. I think it's not for us to stay at home and put our head under the doona and, just run away from the world. I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to be twisted. I wanted to be able to, through my journey, support other people, which is what is happening these days. So I have an online presence where I offer readings. I use beautiful cards which have the oils, or I might just pull an oil out for people. And so here's an example. Actually, I don't think I've got it on my shelf here. I know I've got it in my little pouch here. So we have an oil called Sara, which is for sexual and ritual abuse. Now, this is a beautiful oil that you can use, which will help you to unlock that, that those blocks that present when we come through trauma, or if there's some bad experience. I think we all experience trauma on varying levels. It might be just that voice of your father in your head from when you were 2, or it might be the big sister that was bossy and always wanted to dominate you, something like that. So from our childhood memories, we carry these throughout life. Our messages, our subconscious messages. What essential oils can do is help unlock those messages in a way that it's safe, where you're not feeling too overwhelmed by it. And for me, it's like, sometimes it's like, the penny just drops. It's like, that's why I was thinking that way, or it might bring back a memory, something like that. So they discovered that the sense of smell is very, very, it's one of the most powerful ways to release your emotions and open you up to, and put you in a new place to cope with things. So when we are blocked with emotions, and blocked with all those old subconscious patterns that are holding us back in a container that is not freeing and opening, well, we get stuck. And then when we get stuck, we start feeling unhappy, and then that negative spiral of emotions hits us, and we can dive down into that deep vortex, and we can get stuck at the bottom of the barrel. But the beauty of the bottom of the barrel is, if you want that, if you are wanting to move forward, to open up, to resolve things, if you want to change into something better, transform into that beautiful butterfly with wings and become the person that you are, that bottom of the barrel, once we dive into that, to me, it's like a compost heap, and you put all the rubbish in the compost heap. And when you turn your compost heap over, it aerates it, and it gives it the ability to work in the way that compost does. And then it turns into a beautiful bowl of nutriments that you can put in the ground and you can sow your seeds from. So that's what I call the place for transformation. So you've got to delve into the depths of all that, and you've got to do that inner work. It can be hard going, but the blessings in that is it can be so empowering. So I had discovered, through my journey, the emotions I went through, I've had to learn how to reprogram my thoughts, become mindful of my actions. And when I use all these beautiful oils, they become empowering because I always use them with intention. Now, intention, what's that? That's like, if you went into a supermarket and you had no idea what you wanted to buy, well, you would come out with random things and not necessarily what you really wanted. Well, life's a bit like that, if you ask me. So if you don't know what your intention is, well, you don't know where you're going to end up, or what you can't then attract what you want into your life so easily. So what could you do with intentions? So actually, what I might do, I'm going to pull a card, and I'll give you a little bit of an example of what an intention might be and how you can use these oils. So I'm just going to ask for a card that is going to give us a message for this live. And I love it. It's acceptance. So this is a blend called acceptance. So if you were feeling stuck, you could give yourself a mantra or an intention and this is what I would do with it. I would place a drop in the palm of my hand, and here it comes. And then I would activate it. I would smell it, and deep smelling, and I would move it through my aura. I like to smell these beautiful oils 3 times, move it through my aura, but I would also give myself a mantra or an intention. I accept the situation that I'm in right now, because when we accept the situation as it is, whatever it looks, however it feels, that then opens the door for us to move forward. So Gary Young from Young Living, he was just a brilliant person at knowing how to make the best blends on the planet. That's according to me, and all the Young Living family who loves these oils. So acceptance blend will help you to soothe sorrowful emotions. It promotes self-trust. It overcomes bad habits and resistance. So if we accept situations, then we don't need to rely on those bad habits. Once we come to terms with ourselves, we can then move on, and acceptance helps to rid procrastination. So when we've gone through bad experiences and it puts us into that low self-esteem scenario, we hold back. We don't want to put ourselves forward. I'm a Leo. My numerology is a number 1, and I didn't really embody that until I was, in my late 30s, I guess. And those things started to happen as I started to come to terms with my situation, and as I started to work on myself, and then the more you work on yourself, the more empowered you feel. And the more you also realize that there's other people out there with stories. We all have a story to tell. I think it's a great thing that Lisa is providing a platform for all of us to share our stories and to share what we've done with our stories and how we can empower other people. So I also work with colour because of my time with my Aurosoma readings. If you don't know what they are, they're these beautiful little coloured bottles, and they have 2 levels, and the client comes in and picks the bottles, and you work with colour and you do your readings that way. Because the colours have a meaning, they have numerology, they have essential oils in them. So the bottles are created to be a healing tool. My passion for Aurosoma initially was I just loved it, and I still love it. But when I discovered Young Living, my passion transferred. So I think we need to be prepared to be adaptable and flexible and go with the flow. And I always believe we need to follow our divine nudges. So my divine nudge before I got into Young Living was I wanted something nice to put on my body that made me feel feminine, made me feel powerful, and made me feel protected. So, and I was thinking, where are these messages coming from? What does this mean? I've usually been what you would call a bit of a plain Jane, and didn't worry about that. I think having 4 children, I was the busy single mom, providing for the children, and not having a lot of money, and all those terrible things, times that you can go through. But it was during the holidays, one January. I got an email from a company called The Lost Seeds, and they were promoting these essential oils. And I'm into organics, I'm into low tox living, so that I've got no chemicals around the home. And I used to buy things thinking I was doing the right thing. Well, I've had a big education since then, since finding Young Living. So I purchased a kit of oils, and as soon as they arrived, I could smell them even before I opened the box. And there was just something in it that just came home to my body, and came home to, it wasn't just my body, I just loved them. I just fell in love with them instantly because I could feel the elevation that they gave me. So that then was, the beginning of that journey. So my point was that if you follow your divine nudges, learn to listen to what is within you. And that is where are the trails of the divine blessings. As you pick up those little drops that get dropped in your mind. If I hadn't listened to that nudge, I would never have been on the journey that I've had since I've been using Young Living. So guess what? I won 8 trips around the world because I was doing what I love and what I was passionate about. And people pick up on that, and they like to hear your story, and they look at you. And if people love what they see, they can relate to you. And success is there for each and every one of us, I believe, so long as each and every one of us follow our passion, follow your divine wisdom that is coming from within, and then everything in your life starts to align when you start using your tools, your mindset tools, your kinesiology, your whatever it is, because we're not all the same, we're not all clones of each other. So what happened to me was I was able to resign from teaching, and I started building a business in the world of these beautiful oils. I could work from home. It gave me flexibility to come and go. I was winning so many trips that I was running out of holiday times and things like that. So when you are following your nudge, things fall into place. So I've moved on now. I had to step into my courage. I've labeled myself or promoted myself as the courage activator, because I think there's a lot of us that have these messages that, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could do this? Or wouldn't it be great if I could do that? Or I'd like to do this. But we hold ourselves back. There's that little voice in our head that says, oh, who am I? I can't do that. And I did things on Facebook. I went through free challenges, and I did one called the 30-day video challenge, which is run by a lady in Australia here. And I moved beyond the fear of being seen and heard on camera. I moved beyond the fear of, holding myself back. And then when you step through those, really scary steps of, who am I? I can't do this. How's it going to, and you have to kind of go, let all that go. And what I do is I put oils on myself, and I get online, and I've raised my vibration, and I'm ready to present, and ready to present with the purpose of igniting others to light up their souls and to follow their divine nudges, so that we can, I always say, imagine if each and every one of us was standing in our power. Imagine a world where we are all flowing gloriously in our divine feminine presence. Because when we are all doing that energetically, we are becoming this beautiful, wonderful, uplifting force. We are raising the consciousness of everybody around the world, because the ripple effect of what we do moves throughout the world. So I feel like I'm on a mission now, or I'm following my purpose and creating a community. So I have a group called Kay's Essential Oil Wisdom on Facebook, and anyone who finds me on through Lisa or somehow, you are more than welcome to come and join my Essential Oil Wisdom group. Each week I do weekly lives. I have some fun. I pull out a card and I give you a message, and I encourage people to step into their power. And not only that, to become the master. Once we become the master of ourselves, we can then affect our family, our children. We help our children to become empowered, because they need to become empowered as well, so they don't fall into their own traps. We all need, I believe it's like a toolkit. I call it a toolkit. I want to name it up something like a basket of, well, really a basket of goodness that we can dive into. So you need to find what you resonate with. I offer readings. I work with color, because color is so powerful. Really, I work in the realm of vibration. I love color. I love essential oils, and I work with sound as well. So I have my little chimes up here. I've got a friend who makes beautiful chimes. So I have lovely long chimes, and I work with all those things to bring myself back into center. Some meditation is also really helpful. Make sure you've got your feet on the ground and your head in the heaven. Take your shoes off, get outside, be amongst nature. What are those things that really turn you on is really what you need to be walking towards. Write a list of things. Do your dreaming. I'm actually offering a Enchanted Vision Quest masterclass in a couple of weeks. So if anyone is interested in a one-on-one session or becoming empowered, reach out and you can find me. Activate Your Courage with Kay Hamilton. That's my page on Facebook. I can be found on Facebook. And my wish for the world is that each and every one of us ignite that inner spark, so it becomes a flame, so it becomes a flame that encompasses all those around us. And let's imagine that we have a world where each and every one of us stands in our power, but it takes courage. My question to you is, are you going to follow your divine nudges? Are you going to do the work that's going to take you to step into your courage? And to step into your courage, you really have to let caution to the wind go. You have to decide you're not going to worry about what other people think of you. You've got to come from that message from within and do whatever it takes. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to do that just by yourself. It may take something else, someone else. Find your passion, whatever it is, and make sure you get creative, because when you are creative, that can also help you to unlock the pressure that you are having. I recently went to a soul voice workshop, and that was very empowering, where we all went thinking, oh, we're just going to learn to sing and do some beautiful toning. The lady who runs it has a beautiful voice. And we went along to this workshop. Had no idea. I knew we'd be doing some inner work, but it was a whole weekend of deep inner work. And it was just beautiful, because all of us there felt very safe. And everyone was in a situation where you could freely express yourself with no judgment. So you need to find those places where you know that you will be feeling safe. And if you feel judged, that's not your problem, that's their problem. And taking courage is the only thing that's going to get you over that line of holding you back. The courage to book in a kinesiologist, the courage to take a step in the right direction is what I believe each and every one of us need to be self-fulfilled. So let's grab another card. I'm going to grab another card and see if we can have another message for anybody who's listening, because I'm going to stop here. And this beautiful oil, this card's called White Angelica, and it's talking about this beautiful oil, which is absolutely fantastic for anyone who is feeling judged, or anybody who is feeling attacked or feeling threatened. If you're feeling that you need some protection, I call in the angels. I bring in the angels of the four directions, and I will put some of this White Angelica. I'll put some on my fingers and activate it like this by just rotating clockwise, and I will smell it. Yum. And I always, when this one comes out in a reading, for me, it's always like, you're putting it, this is a good one to put on your shoulders as well. And imagine that you've got your beautiful angel wings that are there to help you rise above the tide of despair or whatever's got you stuck. But it also helps to protect you from those around you who might be aggressive or who might be giving you a hard time. And when you move in that energetic state of feeling protected with your angel wings up here, and they can come in around you and envelope you in a beautiful feeling of knowing that deep within you are safe and everything is well in your world. So, Lisa's coming.
Here I am.
Right.
Hi, Kay. Thank you so much.
Oh, hang on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I just wanted to come in and I didn't know if you were like, oh no, I'm just finishing up, or if
I was getting to that point of where to next. So you tuned in at a nice time.
Oh, good. Thank you. And two of my favorites, Valor and White Angelica. I think the very first time I got a reading from you, those were the two that you pointed
Wow.
out to me. Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
it was
interesting, isn't
lovely.
it?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
absolutely lovely. I still have it written down. Kay, thank you so much. And I would just like to give you a little endorsement, because I met Kay. You were giving a presentation on somebody else's Facebook page, I think. and I just happened to tune in. I was part of that group, and I just happened to tune in, and I thought, "Oh, wow, this is great." And having the Amazing Women show in the group that I have, which is now turning into a podcast. So we'll get you back to do something on the podcast. But
Oh, excellent.
but yeah, then you came onto our channel, and it was such a huge success. So I'm so glad I connected with you. And again, that when you gave me Valor and White Angelica, just the meanings of those at the very first time I met you, were so appropriate for the
Mm,
time, and your intuition was right on. So
fantastic.
if you would like to work with Kay, I cannot endorse her enough. I would definitely say call her and work with her, because talking about raise your vibration, I think every time I meet with Kay, even though we're across the world, we both benefit, and we definitely, our vibrations go way up. So thank you, Kay, for being with us today, and for sharing your time, and for getting up so early. I know that we snuck you into this time slot where you had to get up early. So I appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else appreciates it as well. So thank you so much.
And thank you, Lisa. I think what you're doing is a wonderful thing. So um, you've just got to take that step. Whoever's watching, take
Yep,
that step.
absolutely. Okay, we'll be back in about 15 minutes with Gwenda Smith from Eastern Australia. So stay
Ooh.
tuned. A friend of yours, Kay.
Yes, yes.